Hello and welcome to SQL for Beginners Lesson 4. So in this lesson we are going to install MySQL. So we downloaded that file for installation. Let's open that file and we will continue the installation. So once the file opens, it will ask you to select one of the types of setup that we want to do. I would suggest go for custom, although developer default basically includes everything and these are just individual components. So for example, as we saw in the conceptual diagram, we can install only server or only client if we are really installing on different machines, but for us it is everything on one machine. So let's continue with this selection. So obviously we do need server, so select the server component and we'll install this version, which is the latest. Then we need some application. So application, I suggest go for Workbench. Workbench is a graphical user interface, is a GUI application as it is called. It will allow us to interact with the server and there will be easier way to view the data, the command that we are going to provide and all that things. There is also an option called shell, which is a command line prompt, which is just a, if you know Windows prompt, that's how it works. Now there are some add-ons we currently don't need: Excel, Visual Studio, there is a router. All of those are just extras, we don't need to worry about that. Also no additional connectors for other languages. For example, it allows you to C++, J, all of that, we skip that. Documentation, I say if you want to keep something locally, then go for it, but I highly suggest to bring samples, because we are going to use these sample data also, so we don't have to recreate everything on our own. So let's select that and click next. Now since I had installed it earlier, it is showing me that it found the original path. Let me change that. I want to install everything on my D drive, so I'll change my directory also. Data directory, you want to keep it separate than the installation directory, but it's okay if you want to keep it same. Click next and say you have a warning with your selected path, are you sure? That is fine. So now it will say ready to install and I say execute. So now it will start installing, and as you can see, it will, each individual component will be shown with its progress of installation. So let it finish very quickly. We should be back. I'll pause the video for a minute. In fact, it is almost done, so let's do that. All right, sorry for that little wait, but it is done. So let's continue. Now it says it's ready for configuration. So at this point you are ready with the installation file, but we need to configure all that. So select the default option here, also select the default one. Just keep in mind that we are using TCP/IP connection, which is a type of a protocol, it is called, for connecting to through the network, and these are the port number. It is like the communication through the network happens through some special frequency. All right, keep everything as a default option. Now root account is the basic account which has all the privileges on the server, and it is a given account to start with. So make sure you have the right password and you remember this password. Let me enter some password that I can remember here, and once that is done, we can also add a user. We can create, let's say, user 1 just for the sake of it. Now you can also assign the host, you can leave as default, the role, what kind of user this going to be. So you can say just backup administration, database administration, database designer, manager, all sorts of things. Let's keep it as DB admin, so we can do multiple administrative tasks, and also give some password here again for that user. So in our case, we'll be acting as that user ourselves, but if there is a different user, you need to provide this password, and that's how they will be able to connect. All right, once the user is set up, click next. Configure SQL Server as a Windows service. I would say leave this as default, but it will basically run, and you can check this one, or you can uncheck, but then you have to run this service yourself. So by default I would leave it, up to you. Use this also, system account is fine. Click next, and now we are ready with application of the configuration we decided to give. So let's execute that. As you can see, it will go through this execution very quickly. However, in some cases it may take a long time. So let me pause and then we'll come back. Okay, so as you can see, everything is installed and configured. So let's click finish and it will go to the next step, which says configuration complete, ready to configure the samples examples. Click next. Here it will say MySQL Server instance connecting to server, right? So now remember, we have that user created root was created for us, but we have to provide the password, which whatever you selected, just say check. It says connection successful. Let's go to next, and now we are ready to execute the script. So again, it will apply this configuration for those and you can also see the log. Once it is starting the configuration, you will be able to see the log file with what script is running. It's creating sample database. All of that step will be going through. So I'll pause again because it will take some time to configure it. Alright, so as you can see, all the configuration steps and the scripts have been completed. So let's click finish, and here it says configuration complete. Click next. Now we can start MySQL Workbench after setup. So everything is done. Click finish and it will launch our Workbench. So there it is. Let me bring it to the screen here, and as you can see, it's a nice simple layout. This thing will come to that later. This is the one we are going to talk about. So MySQL connection, this is the connection that we currently have running. You can always have a new connection, so we can provide all the details of how we want to connect to the server. So if you have a different server to connect to, you can have all those details. Remember, we had this host is local host will work because this is local. This is the IP address of local host. Port number, if you remember, was 3306, and the username is root. You can provide either a password here, or you can, it says it is stored in volts, that's fine, but if not, you can always provide it with the password. And let me show you how it works. Say okay, and we can say test connection successfully made connection. So this is how it will work. Basically, they already provided the default connection. So if you want to connect to it also, you can just do the same thing. It will ask for the password. Just provide root password. You can save password in Vault if you want. Vault meaning it's a secure place, and this is called the Workbench. So we are in business to start with MySQL database interaction and ready to learn SQL now. Now in the next lesson, we'll go through what is available under these two tabs, administration and schema, and how that works. All of those details will continue with that. All right, thank you.